Hi, I'm Teacher Michael again, and welcome to Science Time, first quarter, Module 3 that covers our Week 4, which talks about the non-Mendelian patterns of inheritance. But before that, let's have a simple game first. We have the jumbled rumble. I will show to you some jumbled letters. What you're going to do is to identify the meaningful word based on those jumbled letters. Are you ready? Let's start. What do you think is the first word? That's correct. That is heredity. What do you think is our second word? That's correct. That is Mendel. What do you think is our third word? Nice. That is genes. What do you think is our fourth word? Nice. That is genotype. What do you think is our fifth word? Very good. That is phenotype. I hope all of the words you got it correct. So let us continue learning. What is heredity? Heredity is the sum of all biological processes by which particular characteristics are transmitted from parents to their offspring. So this is the process of transferring traits from your parents to you as the offspring. That is what we call heredity. Who is Gregor Mendel, or who is Mendel? Gregor Mendel is considered to be the father of genetics. Gregor Mendel used pea plants to study the inheritance of traits. So he's the first who studied about the genetics using of the pea plants. What is genes? All organisms depend on genes as it holds the information of every individual. It is the basic unit of heredity. It is responsible for the continuity of life, and it holds all the traits that will manifest and will be expressed as phenotype. So this is our cell. Our cells compose, or it has nucleus. The nucleus contains the chromosomes. Those chromosomes are composed of coiled of DNA, and part of the DNA is what we call the gene. So the gene holds the information of every individual. So a gene pertains for a certain trait of an individual, and gene is considered to be the basic unit of heredity. What is genotype? The genotype refers to the entire set of genes in a cell of an organism or an individual. A gene for a particular character or trait may exist in two forms or allele. One is dominant and the other is recessive. So a gene is composed of two alleles, from which one of the allele is dominant and the other allele is recessive. So what is dominant? That trait or that gene which overshadows the other. So ito yung trait na dominante. On the other hand, the recessive gene or the recessive allele, it is the gene that is overshadowed by the dominant gene. So these are the traits that being overshadowed or natatalo ng mga dominant genes. Examples of genotypes. There are three basic genotypes for a particular character. In representing genotype, we are using letters. Big letters meaning it is dominant trait or dominant allele. Small letters or small letter allele is considered to be a recessive allele or gene. For example, this is a pair of allele which makes up of one genotype. So this is an example of what we call homozygous dominant genotype. Why is it homozygous? Because they are both dominant. They are both in big letters. Both of the letters are in big letters, meaning to say those letters or those allele are both dominant. Therefore, they are homozygous dominant. The other one is heterozygous genotype. This is a genotype that composed of allele which is different from each other. So the one allele is dominant because it is in big letters. The other one is recessive because it is in small letter. So this genotype is what we call heterozygous genotype. The other genotype is what we call homozygous recessive genotype because this genotype composes of allele which are both recessive, meaning to say their letter or their allele is in small letters, which represents a recessive allele or gene. Therefore, this is what we call homozygous recessive. Examples of genotypes: hair color. So we can write this one, like this one, and this one. Height, this one, and this one. Shoe size, we can write those genotype, or we can represent the shoe sizes like this one, and this one. So in writing genotypes, we are representing genotypes in terms of letters, which represents those allele. One genotype is composed of a pair of allele or two alleles. What is phenotype? Phenotype is the physical appearance or other characteristics of an organism as a result of the interaction of its genotype and the environment. Some example will be the shoe size, 6, 7, 40, 41, 32, that's the size of your shoe. Shape, diamond, round. Color, brown, blue, black. So phenotype is the traits that is being physically shown to you or physically observed to you. So that is what we call the phenotype. Examples of genotype and phenotypes. So as I've shown to you earlier, these are the examples of genotypes. So what are the phenotype of those genotypes? So we can say that the genotype of this one, so we can say this is the genotype of the hair color. The one allele of this genotype is big letter B, which is color black. The other allele of this genotype is small letter b, that the color of the hair is blue. Remember that genotype is always composed of two letters or two alleles. But what is the phenotype of this genotype? It says here this is black. Why? Because the black allele or the big letter B, which refers to black, is in big letter, therefore it is dominant. So what will show to you is the dominant trait, which is the black. Therefore, that is the phenotype of this genotype is black. How about this one? What's the phenotype of this genotype? Again, that we are still in hair color. Big letter B represents the black hair color. Small letter b, as it shows, it is recessive and the color is blue. So if the genotype is like this, therefore what's the phenotype of this genotype? That's correct, it's still black because they are both in the big letter B. Therefore, what will show to you, what will be observed to you, if you have this kind of genotype, your phenotype will have a black hair color. How about this one? What is the phenotype of this genotype? Since this genotype composed of two recessive allele, and the recessive trait here is color blue hair, therefore what will be your phenotype? What will be shown to you, or what will be your physical characteristics as you have this kind of genotype? Therefore that is blue. Okay, how about the height? So here T represents the tall trait, and it's in big letter, therefore tall trait is dominant trait. On the other hand, the small letter T represents the recessive trait, which is short. Okay, why is still T, although the first letter of short is S? We have to follow the letter of the dominant trait. Although it is short, we should still write letter T, but it represents the recessive trait, which is short. How about this one? What is the phenotype of this genotype? So it's still tall. And the other one, since it represents small letter T and letter T is recessive, and letter T allele or this allele represents short height. So since they are these two alleles are both in short trait or in small letter T, they are recessive. So no more dominant trait here. Therefore, the phenotype of this genotype is short. Punnett square. The Punnett square is used to predict possible offspring's genotype. So what you're going to do for us to be able to get the possible traits of the or the phenotypes of the offspring from the two crossing parents or two traits crossed from those two parents, we have to use the Punnett square. What you're going to do is to place the alleles of each parent on each side. So here, the trait that we're going to discuss is the color of the eye of the parents. Okay, so once they cross, if they cross, the traits of the mother and father crossed in terms of the color of the eye, wherein the mother's genotype is big letter B and big letter B, meaning to say, so the color of the eye of the mother is colored black. Since it is in big letter, therefore, this is dominant. The colored black eye, or which is the black colored eye, is a dominant trait. On the other hand, this is the genotypes of the father in terms of the color of the eye. The color of the eye of the father is blue, but since it is written in small letter B, therefore the colored blue is a recessive trait. So to get the possible trait of their offspring o yung mga possible na katangian na magiging katangian ng kanilang anak in terms of the color of the eye, what we're going to do is to use the Punnett square. So place alleles or place those alleles on each side of this Punnett square. So this is the allele of the father. So this one, you have to write the first allele here and the second allele here. What you're going to do is to separate it. Okay. Next, this is the allele of the mother. So what you're going to do is to separate it also. That's the law of segregation under law of Mendel. Okay, once you already put it there, this is the allele of the mother or alleles of the mother, which represents the genotype of the mother in terms of the color of the eye, which is black. And these are the alleles of the father, which represents the genotype of the father, which were in its trait or the color of the eye of the father is blue, which is recessive. So once you put it there, okay, what you're going to do is to fill up those boxes. How are you going to fill up those boxes? You have to cross this one and this one. You have to combine this big letter D and small letter b here to form the genotype of the offspring here. So big letter B combines with this letter D, it will form this one. Okay, so this is an example of heterozygous genotype because it has dominant allele and recessive allele. On the other hand, so this one, how we're going to form the genotype of the offspring here. So this one and this one. So they will form this kind of genotype, still heterozygous genotype. How about this one? How are you going to fill up this box? So yeah, what you're going to do again, this one combined with this one. And the last here, this one combined with this one. So those are the genotype of their offspring, o yung mga genotype ng kanilang mga anak in terms of the color of the eye. So each boxes is 25%, which means that makes up 100%. So meaning to say each boxes is 25%, therefore 100% of the offspring, the genotype of the offspring is in this kind of type, which is heterozygous genotype. Okay. In this example, eye color, the allele is either brown or blue, with one inherited from the mother and the other inherited from the father. The brown allele is big letter B and the blue allele is recessive, small letter b. If the child inherits two different alleles, that is what we call heterozygous. Okay, this is the heterozygous. Then they will have brown eyes. For the child to have blue eyes, they must be homozygous for the blue eye allele. For example, this one, another example, but still in the trait of the father and the mother in terms of the eye colored. If both mother and father has this kind of genotype, which is heterozygous, this is the trait or the genotype of the father. This is the genotype of the mother. So what we're going to do is to get the genotype of their offspring. Okay, so it still look like a padded square. Okay, so if we're going to notice what allele is dominant, or what trait or what color of the eye is dominant here in this example, that's brown. Big letter B, which represents the color brown eyes, and small letter b, which represents the blue colored eyes. But since the big letter B, it represents brown colored eye, therefore their eye is still brown, because the dominant color is brown, although they have small letter b, which represents the blue colored eye, since the dominant trait overshadows the recessive trait, so it's still their eye is color brown. So once this trait of the mother and father lost, these are the possible offspring. They will have a child which has this kind of colored eye, which is both dominant trait, which has it both dominant brown colored eye trait. On the other hand, it could be possible that they could have a child which has also heterozygous genotypes, which means it has dominant and recessive trait, which is brown and blue. Although they have blue colored eye, okay, still the brown still dominant. So what we can see on their eyes is still brown, but it could still possible that they could produce a child which has a blue colored eye. So it could receive a genotype of this one and this one. So it is possible that that one of their child will have this kind of trait, which is blue colored eye, because it has no big letter B, therefore there's no dominant. they are both recessive. Since they're recessive, it's still a trait. Okay, so since there's no dominant here in the genotype of this child, therefore its phenotype, or what we will see on his eye, or in his or her eye, is blue. On the other hand, like this example also, so once a certain father has a blue eye color and the mother has a brown eye color, but its genotype is heterozygous, these are the possible traits of their child. Two of the child has a heterozygous genotype, since they have still dominant trait, which is brown. Their color, the color of the eye is brown, but two of their child could be in blue eyes. But not all inheritance patterns follows the laws of dominance of Mendel. There is what we call non-Mendelian inheritance pattern. Non-Mendelian patterns of inheritance. Non-Mendelian inheritance is any pattern of inheritance wherein traits do not segregate following Mendel's law. So this kind of trait does not follow the laws of Mendel. So what are the laws of Mendel? We have the laws of dominant, law of segregation, and law of independent assortment. This kind of patterns that we're going to discuss does not follow those laws given by Mendel. This law describes the inheritance of traits linked to single genes on chromosomes inside the nucleus. One of the type of non-Mendelian law, or one of the example of non-Mendelian law, is what we call the incomplete dominance. This pattern of inheritance in which both alleles are present, resulting an intermediate phenotype. A cross between a homozygous red flower plant and a homozygous white flower plant will produce an offspring with pink flowers. So this is the genotype of the red flower, the genotype of the white flower. Once they crossed, since they are both trait red and white are both dominant. So no traits from those flowers are recessive. They are both dominant. Therefore, once they crossed, they produce an offspring. The possible color of their offspring, or of the another flower that will be produced, is pink, which has a genotype of RW. So meaning to say, in incomplete dominance, since both traits of the parents are dominant, what happened is that they combine. The traits of the two parents combine to produce another phenotype, or that's what we call the intermediate phenotype. So the offspring is said to be a heterozygote because it has heterozygous genotype. So how is it happen? How does it look like, or how does this kind of genotype happen? So this is the allele or the genotype of the red flower crossed with this white flower. This is the genotype of the white flower. So once they cross, they will produce offspring. Okay, RW. This one. Okay, this one. And this one. Okay, so they produced RW and RW. Since there's no dominant, there's no recessive trait, and both of the two letters are in big letters, they're both dominant, meaning to say they cannot overshadow the other. Okay, what happened is that they combine. The two traits combine and produce another color or another phenotype. So in this case, red combines with white they produce another color or phenotype that is what we call pink. So that is what we call incomplete dominance. But what is the probability of a pink flower if pink flowers are bred with red flowers? So this is the red flower crossed with a pink flower with this genotype RW. So what will be the probability of the pink flowers? So in this problem, it is asking about the probability of having pink flowers. If the one of the parent is red and the other parent is pink, what is the probability of the pink flowers produced? So hanapin natin or alamin natin kung ilan ang mapuproduce na pink flower from this cross of two parents. Okay, so this one RR, this one is RRs, this one RW, and this one RW. Since they are both R, what will be the phenotype of this genotype? That's red. How about this one? This is both R. Still red. How about this one? This is RW. What is the genotype? Or what's the phenotype of this genotype? Okay, very good. That's pink. Since we are in incomplete dominance. How about this one? Still pink. So therefore, what is the probability of pink flowers in this situation? 50% of chance of pink flowers, because every box is 25%. So since we have two RWs here, we have two pinks, so it makes up 50% of chance of pink flowers. 25%, 25%, therefore 50% of the offspring could have a pink flowers. There is another example of non-Mendelian inheritance pattern. That is what we call codominance. What is codominance? It is a heterozygous condition wherein both traits are present simultaneously rather than one fully determining the phenotype. A speckled chicken is a good example of this codominance. Black chicken plus white chicken will produce speckled chicken. So how it looks like? So black chicken, big letter B and big letter B, W. Still, they're both dominants. The traits are both dominants. But since they are in codominance, what happens is that there's no blending or there's no combination happen between the traits of the two parents. What happens is that both the trait of the parents was observed on the offspring. So in this speckled chicken, it has white and black color feathers. Okay, so that's what we call codominance. There's no combination, but those traits from the parents were observed and seen from the offspring. So how it happens? Okay. So they did not produce gray color, but this speckled chicken shows the traits of the two parents, which is black and white color. So that is what we call codominance. There is an example of codominance problem here. What are the possible phenotypes when two speckled chicken are bred? If the two speckled chicken which has this kind of genotype, what are the phenotypes of the two speckled chicken crossed? Okay, so this is BB, this is BW, BW, and WW. In writing the letters of those genotypes, you have always to remember that you have to write first what is first, or what comes first in an alphabet. Okay, for that reason we always start with letter B than W. Okay, so in this example, what are the possible phenotypes when two speckled chicken are bred? So this is both letter B, big letter B. So the color of this chicken is black. How about this one? What is the trait of this chicken? which has B and W genotype, that's correct. It's speckled. It has brown and it has black and white feather. How about this one? Okay, it's still speckled chicken. It has black and white feather. How about this one? This is white chicken. So possible phenotypes are a black chicken, 2 speckled chicken, and a white chicken. So there are 1 black chicken, 2 speckled chicken, and white chicken, 2 speckled chicken crossed together. Another example of codominance are being observed in what we call the human bloods. Another example that show how common codominance pattern of inheritance is determined by the genes is in the blood typing in humans. An antigen is a protein bound to a sugar molecule found on the surface of our red blood cells. A pair of alleles, which is the allele of blood type A and allele of blood type B, which controls one group of antigens, help in determining the blood types of an individual. So, human blood type has 4. We have blood type A, B, AB, and O. What are the genotype of those blood type? Blood type A has 2 sets of genotypes. Okay, like this one. This is the first genotype of this blood phenotype A. So in this blood type, the phenotype is the type of the blood. A, B, and O. So they considered as the phenotype. The genotype, as I've mentioned, the genotype of A is this one. They have 2 sets. The B also have 2 sets. So one is homozygous genotype, the other one is heterozygous genotype. Okay. How about the AB? They have this kind of genotype. Okay, so and O has small letter I. Okay. In this table, it shows also that if you are a blood type A person, you can receive blood from blood type O and blood type A only. If you are a blood type B person, you can receive blood from blood type O and blood type B person. If you are a blood type AB person, you can receive blood from blood type A person, blood type B person, blood type AB person, and blood type O person. Therefore, blood type AB persons are considered to be universal recipient person because you can receive blood from anyone. On the other hand, blood type O can only receive blood from those person who has also a blood type. On the other hand, if you're a blood type A, you can donate blood to a blood type AB person and a blood type A person. If you are a blood type B person, you can donate blood to those AB person and B blood type B person. If you are a blood type AB person, you can only donate to a blood type AB person. Okay? But if you are a blood type O person, you can donate to everyone. To those blood type A, blood type B, blood type AB, and blood type O person. So blood type O person are the universal donor person. So every blood type, this is the blood type, has what we call a antibodies which located in the plasma of our blood. So, and also an antigens which is located in the red blood cells. Okay, so those attached here on those red blood cells, on those different blood type, are the antigens. Okay, so if you're a blood type A person, your antibody is anti-V and your antigen here is antigen. If you are a blood type B person, your antibodies is antibody A or anti-A, and your antigen is B antigen. If you are blood type AB person, you don't have any antibodies, but you have antigens that is attached on your red blood cells. That is AB antigens. And group O or blood type O doesn't have any antigen, but they have antibodies, which is antibody A and antibody B. The antibodies is very important in fighting diseases. In heterozygote condition, both A and B are expressed in the red blood cell that will have the antigens A and B. 3 alleles exist in the ABO system, ABO. This results in 4 blood types, A, B, and O, and blended A. So, since we are in a codominant, once your mother has a blood type A, and your mother has a blood type B, and your father is a blood type A, one of the possible blood type of their child or one of their child could have a blood type AB. Why is it codominant? Because in his blood, it has both characteristics of A and another characteristics of B. For that reason, blood type AB is an example of codominance because the two characteristics shows in the traits of a certain organism or a certain offspring. So, a blood type AB person is a codominant or heterozygote because it has a blood type A and blood type B as well. Multiple alleles. A single gene that has more than 2 alleles is called multiple alleles. The ABO blood groups in humans, as an example of a gene that has multiple alleles, is the one that controls the inheritance. There are 4 blood group systems, AB, and O. So aside from the being codominant in blood, which is the blood type AB, our blood also shows a good example of multiple alleles trait. Okay, so why? Those multiple alleles are genes which has more than 2 alleles. Okay, meaning to say those traits that has 2 sets of genotypes or more than 2 alleles. For example, the blood type A. Blood type A has 2 sets of genotype. So it could be this one and it could be this one. The homozygous blood type A and the heterozygous blood type A. On the other hand, blood type B also is considered to be an example of multiple alleles because it has 2 sets of genotypes. Okay, so this one, which is the homozygous blood type B, and this one, which is the heterozygous blood type B. So, but this one, blood type AB, is considered to be a codominance. Blood type O, it has only 1 genotype. So it's not totally an example of multiple alleles. So in these blood types, blood type A and blood type B is considered to be a multiple alleles. For learning task for week 4, for activity 1, my incompleteness, completely fill in the Punnett squares with the correct genotypes based on the key pictures that illustrate incomplete dominance. Then answer the following questions. Provide a separate sheet of paper for your answer. So in these key pictures, the purple eggplant has a genotype of big letter E and big letter E. Therefore, the purple colored eggplant is considered to be a dominant trait because it's in big letters. Its genotype is in big letters. There is also a white eggplant. The white colored eggplant or the white colored is the recessive trait because its genotype is in small letter. On the other hand, the violet eggplant has a genotype of big letter E and small letter E. So from these key pictures, we can say that this violet eggplant comes from the combination of the color of the purple eggplant and the white eggplant. Therefore, we can say that this violet eggplant is an example of incomplete dominance. The the violet eggplant produced from the blending of colors of the purple and white eggplant. So this violet eggplant is an example of heterozygote under incomplete dominance. For number 1, what percentage of offspring will have white fruit? If we were going to cross this one, a purple eggplant, and this white white eggplant, which has this kind of genotype. So the first question is, what percentage of offspring will have white fruit or white eggplant? Letter B, what percentage of the offspring will have violet fruit or violet eggplant? So let us see. So once we cross this one, it will produce this one. Once we cross this one, it will produce this one, and this one, and this one also. So the question is, for the first question, what percentage of the offspring will have white fruit from the genotype of the offspring? What is the colored of their what is the colored of the offspring? Is it purple, violet, or white? So all of the offspring has a color of violet because it has genotype of this, like this one, heterozygous genotype. So therefore, there is no white colored eggplant. What percentage of the offspring will have violet fruit? So all of the offspring has a violet fruit, therefore 100% of the offspring has violet fruit or is in violet color. So for the following question, you can do it now. For activity 2, who's my family? A fire has occurred in a nearby maternity clinic. The assigned nurse quickly rushed out of the place to secure the newborn babies. Unfortunately, there were some babies without their identification bracelets. So using your knowledge about codominance inheritance will help bring these babies back to their correct parents. So these are the genotypes of the baby. So to get their possible parents, because their bracelet was lost during that fire, so we have identified the genotypes of the parents based the offspring genotypes of the offspring or the baby based on their blood. So baby number 1 has a blood type A, baby number 2 has a blood type AB, and baby number 3 has a blood type B. So there are 3 parents that we can there are 3 parents that is looking for their possible babies. First is Cruz family, our first set of parents. Mr. Cruz blood type is B and his wife's blood type A. The second set of parents is Fernandez. Mr. and Mrs. Fernandez both have a B blood type. And the last one, the last set of parents is in the Lopez family. Mr. Greg Lopez has an O blood type, and Mrs. Ana Lopez blood type is A, which is heterozygous blood type A. What you're going to do is do this task. Make use of Punnett square below to determine the possible genotypes of the newborn babies. Compare the 4 possible genotypes of the 3 evacuated babies. Write your answer in a separate sheet of paper. So these are our clue. So these are the Punnett square that we're going to use to identify the parents of those baby based on their blood types. Okay, first is Cruz family. So si Mr. Cruz has a blood type B and Mrs. Cruz has a blood type A. So let us put the genotype of the blood type of Mr. Cruz here and the blood type of his wife here. Okay, so Mr. Cruz blood type is B. That's 1. And Mrs. Cruz has blood type A. So why did I put like this? Because these are the genotypes of blood type A, genotype of blood type B. Okay, I only use the first set of their genotypes. So once they crossed, okay, once they crossed, and once they cross, they will produce this one. So what are the blood type of the produced offspring? So that is blood type AB. So the baby which has a blood type AB is the baby of Mr. and Mrs. Cruz. Okay, let's have Fernandez family. For Fernandez family, it's up to you na, because they're both Mrs. and Mr. Fernandez has a both blood type B blood type. And Mr. Greg Lopez has a blood type O. So ito yung genotype ng blood type O. And Mrs. Anna Lopez has blood type A, but it is heterozygote or heterozygous blood type A. So heterozygous blood type A is like this one. This is heterozygous blood type A. So it's up to you, or it's your time to do it on your own for you to be able to get the possible offspring of those genotypes crossed, and for us to be able to get the possible baby of Mr. Fernandez, Mrs. and Mr. Fernandez, and Mr. and Mrs. Lopez. So what you're going to do is to answer the following question and this table here. For performance task number 2, activity 4, link together, complete the table below to determine the non-Mendelian patterns of the inheritance involved in the formation of the given phenotype of the offspring produced in a cross between a homozygous black fur rabbit and a white fur rabbit. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So what you're going to do is to identify the patterns of non-Mendelian patterns being observed on those kind of situation or those kind of genotypes, and you have to write their explanations. We already discussed the incomplete dominance and co-dominance. So those are the first patterns that we discussed for the week 4. Kindly also answer what I have learned on page 17.